This lesson will be about 4-6 composition of radicals. Now, you might be familiar with this term, f into g of x. Remember when we were talking about going from the inside to the out. Now, we did this in linear functions. Now, today we're going to do the same concept, but we're going to be working on two different functions, which is quadratic and radicals. So let's start. Let's review some terms before we start the lesson. So what does f of 3 mean? Every time they say f of 3, it means x is equal to 3. So you need to plug in 3 wherever you see x. So 3 times 3 would be a 9 plus 1, which is a 10. Then you would say that f of 3, so when you plug in x equals 3, you're going to get a y to be equal to 10. Now go ahead, pause the video and try to do this one and this one on your own. Now here there's an equal sign missing. So let's add an equal. So f of 3 is equal to square root of x plus 5. Now I hope you tried. Now let's work this. G of 2. It means wherever x is, plug in 2. And you copy everything as it is. Now remember PEMDAS, you always work with parentheses and exponents before you multiply or do anything. So parentheses and exponents. So you have to do 2 squared, which is a 4. And then 3 times 4 is a 12 plus 1 would be a 13. And that tells you that g of 2 is equal to 13. It means when x is equal to 2, y is equal to 13. Or you can write it as 2, 13. Now let's move on to the other one. Now here, f of 3 means you copy everything as it is, and wherever x is, you would put a 3. So 3 plus 5 is an 8. Now 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. Now if you can simplify the radical, go ahead and do that. Now every time there is no number, so the index is 2, it means anything in groups of 2 will leave the radical, and this will stay, so it would be 2 radical 2. It means f of 3 is equal to 2 radical 2. So you can write it this way or this way, or you can tell me when x is equal to 3, then y is equal to 2 radical 2. So this is one way of writing it. This is a second way of writing it. And this is the third way of writing it. And all of them are right. Now this is how you would substitute a specific value for x. Now let's move on to the other part. Now they're asking us what type of equations are these. Now as you can see, this is linear and this is linear. Now it would be a good time for you to pause the video and try to do this one and this one on your own. Let's see what you remember. Now here it means that you have to plug in g of x in f. So what is f? F is 3x plus 1, so 3. Whatever x is, you keep parentheses and plus 1. So f is 3x plus 1. So whatever x is, keep parentheses. Now what should go into this parentheses? G of x. What is g of x? It's x minus 9. You see that? So what it means is that you have to plug in g of x in f. So g of x, whatever g of x is, should go in the x of f. So this would be a good way of writing it, and then you distribute. So the final answer would be 3x minus 26. Now let's move on to the other part, g of f of 2. It means you have to plug in whatever f of 2 is in g. So in order to know what f of 2 is, first of all, calculate f of 2. And then plug it in g. So calculate f of 2. Now f of 2, it means, remember that f of x is equal to 3x plus 1. So f of 2 means wherever x is, plug in 2. So that would give you 6 plus 1, which is a 7. It means f of 2 is equal to 7. Now, we're not done. They said g of f of 2. So plug in f of 2, which is a 7, now here. So let's write it down. G of f of 2. Now what is f of 2 now? F of 2 is 7. So instead of f of 2, you can write 7 now. So g of 7. Now, what is g of x? Let's write it down. g of x from this problem is equal to x minus 9. So let's write it down. X minus 9. Now, g of 7, it means wherever x is, put a 7. So 7 minus 9 is a negative 2. So g of 7 is a negative 2. And that would be your final answer. So let's summarize what we did. Please, if you want, go ahead, review this before you start this one on your own. So as you can see, this is a quadratic function, and this is a linear. So do the same steps and go ahead, do this one and this one on your own. Take as much time as you want. Now here, in f of g of x, it means you have to plug in g of x in f. So let's see what f is. F is 3x squared minus 5. So let's write it down. 3x squared minus 5. This is what f is. Now we need to plug in g of x in wherever this is. So g of x is x plus 2. So you plug in x plus 2 in the parentheses. Now, to solve this, remember that x plus 2 squared is x plus 2 into x plus 2. And you copy everything else. You copy the 3 and the negative 5. Now you need to FOIL this first. So keep the 3. Let me make some room. So it would be x times x, which is an x squared. Then x times 2, which is 2x. Then you would do, so x times x times 2, then 2 times x, and 2 times 2. So 2 times x would be 2x, and 2 times 2 would be 4. So it would be x squared plus 4x plus 4 minus 5. Now after you do the foiling, now you can distribute the 3 into each one of them. So it would be 3x squared plus 12x plus 12 minus 5. Now you can combine those two. So let's copy 3x squared plus 12x. 12 minus 5 would be a negative 7. Plus 7. So the final answer would be 3x squared plus 12x plus 7, and that would be your final answer. Let's move on. So g of f of negative 3. So you need to know what f of negative 3 is. So let's calculate that. F of negative 3. Now what is f? F is 3x squared minus 5. Let's write it down. So f of x is 3x squared minus 5. So f of negative 3 would be 3 into negative 3 squared minus 5. So see what I did? I substituted x for negative 3, or negative 3 for x. Now again, you do the parentheses first. So negative 3 squared would be a 9, because negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. Now 3 times 9 would be a 27. Minus 5 would be a 22. Now, is this our final answer? No, we just found f of negative 3. Now, remember, it's g of f of negative 3. Let me write it down. G of f of negative 3. I just found f of negative 3 to be 22, so g of 22 equals to what? So I need to know the equation for g. What is g? G of x, let me write it on the side. G of x is x plus 2. X plus 2. So, g of 22, it means whatever x is, you plug in 22. So since it's x plus 2, it's 22 plus 2, which is a 24. So g of 22 is 24, and that would be the final answer. Now, it would be a good time if you want to go ahead and review the first front page, because we need to move on to composition of radicals. Now let's move on to the next page. Now, what type of equations are these? Now, every time you have a radical, it would be a radical function. So this is a radical, and this is a linear. Now, it doesn't matter, like, don't get frustrated if it's a radical function, it's the same concept. So f of g of x, it means, let's see, what is f? F is the square root of x, so put parentheses, plus 5. And what should go in this parentheses is the g of x. Now g of x is 2x minus 1, so you put 2x minus 1 in the parentheses. So what you're doing is you're plugging g of x wherever x is. So this has to go in here, because g of x, it's f into g of x. Now, you can just write 2x minus 1 plus 5, and then negative 1 plus 5 would be plus 4, so that is the final answer. Now g of f of x, it means whatever g is, so let's write 2x minus 1. So every time I say x, I would put parentheses, and inside the parentheses I would put whatever is inside the parentheses over here. So I would put square root of x plus 5. Now don't get like frustrated, it's just you copy it as it is. You can just drop down the square, because the parentheses, because they don't really mean anything. You cannot just distribute the 2 into the square root. You can just write it as 2 square root of x plus 5 minus 1, and that would be your final answer. There's nothing else you can do. Now let's move on to the other part. Now if you'd like some time to do this on your own, go ahead, pause the video and try it. So this is radical, and this is quadratic. So again, the same concept, f. F is square root of x minus 3, so square root of x minus 3. So because there's f on the outside, so there should be an f on the outside. Now g of x is 4x squared, so you need to plug the g of x in f. So the g of x has to go there, wherever x is. So wherever the parentheses is, you put your g of x, which is 4x squared. Now you can just drop the parentheses, and that would be your final answer. There's nothing else you can do. So as you can see, in questions like that, it's all about knowing what to plug in what, and there's nothing else you can do. Now g of f of x, it means g, which is 4x squared, so you put 4x squared. Now f of x has to go in here. So what is f of x? F of x is square root of x minus 3. So I'm going to put square root of x minus 3. Now let's look over here. Can we simplify this? Every time you have a radical and you square it, what happens to the radical? It will just go away. So the square will drop the radical. So it would be 4 into x minus 3. So remember, every time you square a radical, a square root, like for example, if you have square root of 2 and you square it, the 2 will drop the radical and you will have a 2. For example, square root of 3, the square will drop down the radical and you will have a 3. The same concept, square root of x minus 3 to the power 2, so the 2 will drop down the radical and you will just write x minus 3. Now you can distribute the 4, so it will be 4x minus 12, and that would be your final answer. Now, this is what the whole lesson is about. If you'd like to review and go over it, I'll have more practice in class. Good luck. I'll see you tomorrow.